Welcome to Mission Majjhima, Ajahn.
Ajahn.
So tell us about Majjhima number 26, the Ariyapariyesanā Sutta.
So the Noble Search is quite a sutta. I don't know how we're going to get over nearly all of the material we should. But it begins with the Buddha, or a scene with some monks, bhikkhus in Savatthi, speaking with Venerable Nanda and saying it's been a long time since they've heard a discourse from the Buddha, and Venerable Nanda recommends they go to a hermitage, Haramaka's. And later on, Venerable Nanda and the Buddha also go to the hermitage, and the Buddha teaches these monks, or describes to them, his path to awakening from his origins as a Khattiya noble warrior of the Sakyan clan to full enlightenment. He begins with a very powerful kind of distinction or dichotomy, talking about the ignoble quest and the noble quest, the Ariyapariyesanā, noble search. And an ignoble quest is one who is themselves subject to birth, aging, death, sorrow, corruption, searches likewise for that which is subject to the same things, meaning pretty much anything in the conditioned realm. And then he goes through this list of, family, children, or material wealth, etc. Versus one who realizes, why, when I am subject to birth, aging, death, sickness, and suffering, do I search for that which is likewise subject to those same things? And sets their heart instead on the search for the unexcelled attainment of nibbana, liberation. And then the Buddha describes how when he was a young man, he shaved off his beard and went forth as a mendicant despite his mother and father weeping. And in this case, that would be his stepmother. And then talks about encountering two teachers of the time, Uddaka Ramaputta and Alara Kalama, and how each basically taught him up to a refined state of concentration, which they believed was the ultimate. So in the case of Uddaka Rama or Alara Kalama, it was the base of nothingness, I believe.
That's right.
And with Uddaka Ramaputta, it was the base of neither perception nor non-perception. So these refined states of concentration, which both believed were the final goal. And the Buddha basically realizes he attains both, but realizes it's not the end, and continues his search. Finally, attaining awakening in Uruvela, in Bodh Gaya, basically. And then there's a really fascinating moment where the subtlety of his awakening to dependent origination, paticca samuppada, and nibbana are so profound, he thinks he's not inclined to teach at first. But then the Brahma Sahampati comes down and requests that he teach for the sake of those with little dust in their eyes. The Buddha agrees out of compassion, seeing that, surveying the world with his kind of eye, his divine eye, and seeing that there are beings who could understand, and sets out to teach his 5 companions, seeing as his teachers had already passed away and couldn't receive the teaching. He encounters a wanderer on the road named Upaka in a slightly comic, tragic episode where Upaka is just not interested. And after walking the following about 150 miles from Uruvela to Varanasi, the Buddha encounters the 5 ascetics. They're initially inclined to not kind of receive him with respect, but eventually they do. He teaches them, they attain awakening as well. And then we come back into the present moment of the sutta that it began with him teaching the ascetics gathered with him about the importance of sense restraint, and then moving them through these 4 jhanas, 4 formless attainments, and finally Nirodha Sampatti, cessation of feeling and perception, which is a very refined attainment that they say can only be accessed by basically enlightened beings or anagamis. And then he says, this is where Mara is blind, cannot find you, hearkening back to the previous sutta. And that's the Noble Search. Ajahn, what did you find interesting in the sutta and worth drawing out?
I was impressed, moved again by just the believability of the scenes that we see. Very human scenes. When he's talking about going forth, his father, Suddhodana, and stepmother are just crying as he's saying that he wants to go forth. Such human scenes, just stripped of all the hagiography of later works. We don't hear the Buddha's father's name, Suddhodana. We don't hear his mother's name, his stepmother's name. We don't hear about Yashodhara, his wife. We don't hear about his son, Rahula. Just such stripped down and, quite a believable account. And when you hear when I hear such human-centric, it's like on the scale of a human, our size, it just makes the other aspects of attaining enlightenment, attaining these states of meditative concentration, all the more believable. Most people have not had experiences of these deeper mind states, and few are those who have attained liberation. But when you see he was a human, and this is another aspect, another really believable part, when he's living with these teachers, Alara Kalama and Udaka Ramaputta, he says, they're possessed of faith, energy, mindfulness, concentration, wisdom. I too have faith, mindfulness, concentration, energy, and wisdom. Why don't I try to attain what they've attained? So this extremely wholesome competitiveness, just a human, they've done it, so can I mentality. So quite believable. And for yourself, Ajahn, anything else you'd like to draw out, either practical-wise or just interesting points in the sutta?
Yeah, I think the one thing I think is worth focusing on a little bit is just how easy it was for the Buddhist teachers, although they were wonderful practitioners in their own right, to get stuck and deluded by refined states of concentration. And in Christian tradition, there's two methods of attaining truth. There's apophatic method, via negativa, articulating God by what he is not, versus cataphatic method, articulating God by what he is. And the Buddha is such an apophatic specialist in the sense of saying, throughout his teaching, let go of suffering, let go of dukkha, let go of the aggregates of clinging, let go of grasping, and what you come to, it's nibbana, but he doesn't go into, he describes it in somewhat vague terms because it's beyond language. And you see the wisdom of that root of letting go, when you understand how easy it was for his teachers to become caught. And that is the danger of refined states of concentration, is they're so bright that people really take them as the ultimate. And so I think there's an important kind of warning story in the Buddha's account, and also an indication for why he taught the way he did, as a very practical method of letting go of all dukkha until you come to awakening. Did you have anything else to bring up or draw out of this, Ajahn?
I think just two quotes from the sutta. One is, we find elsewhere, is that talking to the spiritual seekers, the monastics who've come together, he says, monastics, practitioners, when you've come together, you should do one of two things. Either have discussion on the Dhamma or hold noble silence. And it's a great message, a kind of a high bar. And all of us have to figure out how to do that if you want to commit your life to Dhamma in this way, in a way which isn't stilted, which doesn't make others feel awkward or like you're superior, holier than thou, because I only talk about the Dhamma, etc. Finding ways that you find Dhamma and see Dhamma everywhere and can bring it into different conversations. So a really good point. And also, when the Buddha found the Bodhi tree, he just says, this will serve for striving. Alam idam padanaya. This will serve for striving. And none of us have perfect conditions. We don't have a monastery. We're living in some huts. But alam idam padanaya, this will serve for striving. And it's self-talk, which, who's to say, run the counterfactual? If he hadn't said that, if he hadn't had this mind, which is determined in another sutta, this moment is drawn out. The Buddha, as he sits down and says, this will serve for striving, he further says, okay, I'm going to sit down, let my flesh and blood dry up and just let my skin and bones remain. I won't give up until what can be attained by human strength, human effort, human striving has been attained. So, how can we do that ourselves? Just this will serve for striving. It's not ideal, it's not the best, but nothing's perfect. So
that's great.
And Ajahn, what is the word of the week?
The word of the week is Ariyapariyesanā. It means noble search. Pariyesana comes from the root S, or to search or seek.
Okay. Well, those of you who are tuning in the first time we show this, you can just wait around or go on to Zoom. And for those of you who are tuning in later, you can tune in next week or go to our next video, Majjhima number 27.
Ajahn.